Hey, I'm Ted Santos, and I've been talking to you about the top reasons you can't find love. And as you see, I had to come back out into what I call my natural habitat. You see, I'm in the bush talking about love. And well, I had to take this one from a very different perspective. So I came out into the bush. And I'm going to talk about something that some of you may not have heard before, and others, well, you may have heard it and you just don't like it. The number 32 reason you can't find love is a little more complicated than the previous ones. It requires you to take a hard look under the covers of your life. Unfortunately, this is something most people do not enjoy doing. The number 32 reason you can't find love is because you never learned to learn. I said that. A simpler way to put it is you never learn to think, especially to think for yourself. There's something called the Kruger effect. Some of you may have heard it, some of you haven't. It's two gentlemen. What they found is most people, the majority, overwhelming majority, overestimate their intelligence. That's right. They found that most people think they are much more intelligent than they actually are. And there's a small minority of people who actually do have high intelligence. Those people underestimate their intelligence, and in underestimating their intelligence, they work feverishly to always increase their intelligence and to learn more. Meanwhile, those who overestimate, they don't push as hard as those who underestimate. And then you have these people who end up being much more intelligent than those who overestimate. So they call it the Dunning-Kruger effect. In other words, most people believe they know how to think. They even believe it's a matter of semantics. When you talk about the difference between thinking and having thoughts, well, having thoughts is, those are all the things that you've heard, you've seen, you've discussed, you've read, what you call experience. These are all things you've encountered one way or another, and you have thoughts about them. You may rearrange the way you've seen them, except these are things you've already been exposed to, and you rearrange it, and it's a new thought, or a new combination of existing thoughts. Thinking, on the other hand, not semantics, is actually thinking that which is unthought, thinking something that's never been thought. So there's nothing to rearrange because you never thought it before. It doesn't exist, whether it doesn't exist for you or for the world. Our education system does not teach what our education system does. It doesn't teach us to think. It teaches us to memorize someone else's thinking, and then we are all rewarded for having thoughts about someone else's thinking. People who think actually disrupt thoughts of others. Sometimes they disrupt thinking of others. Disruptors often think that which is not thought. And it reminds me of a very interesting quote by a gentleman, and his name is Don Marquis. And Don Marquis said, if you make people think they are thinking, they will love you. If you make them really think, they will hate you. They will hate you for making them really think. Because thinking that which is unthought is going to be filled with so much uncertainty and even chaos that people can't even fake their confidence anymore. So if you want more proof of this, most people repeat their childhood. And repeating your childhood is really just doing what you learned at home. In other words, you become your parents. And this is how many relationships play out. Look at the children of divorced parents. They either divorce or have mediocre relationships. And I know, there's someone who's going to say, well, my parents divorced, my wife and I, we have a great relationship. I got it. You're outliers. Home is the first place you receive an education. And your parents' relationship, well, that's sometimes your first and the only education you receive about relationships. And it's embedded in your brain and your neural paths. So it's no surprise people repeat what they are taught. They memorize what they saw at home and repeat it. If you're from a single parent home, it could be worse unless you unlearned, unless you learn to learn and think. Sorry about that. If you had learned to learn, right? And this is what I'm saying from the beginning. This is what kills relationships. People don't learn to learn. If you learn to learn, you would have learned to think for yourself instead of repeating what you saw at home. If you're wise, you understand the sense of urgency to unlearn what you have learned about relationships. At the same time, there is a dilemma. How can you unlearn if you never learned? They gave you a way of doing things and rewarded you for memorizing, and that even goes for relationships. Perhaps another way to put it is to unthink what you have been taught to thought, right? Since you never learned to think. So unlearning what you've been taught, or technically what you've been given to think. They gave you this, like they gave you English, your first language, or Mandarin or Spanish or whatever you prefer. They gave it to you, and you just repeated what you were given. So if you made it this far to this video, there's a good chance you taught yourself to think. Thank you. The world needs more of you. For those of you who are honest and know you have not learned to think, thank you. Today can be your fork in the road. You can continue repeating what you were given to have thoughts about, or you can start your journey of unlearning and unthinking your thoughts. If you would like my support for creating that new paradigm, contact me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any other place you see me on the internet. I can support that journey. Until next time, happy thinking. It's your life. Only you have the right to choose what you think. You never have to be stuck with the thoughts you were taught to thought or taught to memorize. And extraordinary relationships, well, they're made of two people who think together instead of repeating the path of their parents or the path their parents put in front of them. Until next time, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.